Europe's nuclear debate just turned explosive, and one senior minister says leaders need to stop talking. Belgium's defense minister, Theo Francken, has issued a blunt warning to fellow European politicians: keep your mouth shut on nuclear deterrence. His unusually sharp rebuke comes as speculation grows that Europe may need its own atomic shield amid shifting U.S. priorities. Washington has signaled it will scale back some of its long-standing security commitments in Europe, pivoting instead toward homeland defense and containing China. The result? A wave of anxious discussions across European capitals about whether the continent can still rely on the American nuclear umbrella. Francken made his remarks after German Chancellor Friedrich Merz spoke publicly about nuclear arrangements. While Merz ruled out Germany building its own bomb, he suggested German fighter jets could potentially carry French or British nuclear weapons. Germany and Belgium already participate in NATO's nuclear sharing framework, a Cold War system allowing U.S. nuclear bombs stationed in Europe to be delivered by Allied air forces in wartime. But Francken says loose public talk about nuclear strategy is reckless. Across Europe, fear of so-called Russian aggression has fueled calls for military expansion. Moscow, however, dismisses those claims as baseless fear-mongering. Russia's ambassador to Germany, Sergei Nechayev, recently warned that debate over nuclear weapons in German political and media circles is growing and called the trend deeply concerning. The conversation is no longer fringe. Lawmakers from Germany's Alternative for Germany party argue Berlin needs its own nuclear arsenal. In Poland, President Karol Nawrocki has voiced support for joining a nuclear project, saying Warsaw must consider its own deterrent options. All this unfolds at a volatile moment. The new Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, the last major nuclear arms control pact between the United States and Russia, has expired. Signed in 2010, New START capped deployed strategic warheads and provided mutual inspections. Its lapse raises fears of a renewed, unchecked arms race. Now, with Europe openly debating nuclear futures, tensions are rising. And according to Belgium's defense chief, some conversations are better kept behind closed doors.
Europe's nuclear debate is heating up. As Washington signals a strategic shift, questions over who shields the continent are growing louder. Now, Moscow has stepped in, dismissing Britain's nuclear umbrella as no real added protection for NATO allies. Is Europe entering a new era of nuclear recalibration? Russia's ambassador to the United Kingdom, Andrei Kelin, says Britain's nuclear umbrella will not provide any additional material security guarantees to other NATO members. Speaking to Russian media, Kelin argued that London's deterrent does not fundamentally alter Europe's strategic balance. His remarks come amid growing debate over whether Europe should expand its own independent nuclear capabilities. Discussion around a European nuclear framework has accelerated following signals from Washington about scaling back certain security commitments. The United States has indicated a stronger focus on homeland defense and strategic competition with China. That shift has prompted renewed conversations within Europe about long-term deterrence and strategic autonomy. Kelin stated that any expansion of nuclear safeguards in Europe would be taken into account in Russia's military planning. He added that such developments would also influence future discussions on strategic stability. Moscow says it is closely monitoring countries it describes as pursuing overtly anti-Russian policies. Britain's nuclear deterrent consists of 225 warheads deployed aboard 4 Vanguard-class submarines. The UK government has also announced plans to acquire F-35 fighter jets capable of carrying nuclear payloads. London maintains that its deterrent remains committed to NATO, a policy in place since 1962. At the Munich Security Conference, Prime Minister Keir Starmer warned that Russia could potentially pose a direct military threat to NATO by the end of the decade.
He stressed the importance of closer coordination between the UK and France in nuclear policy discussions, even as debates continue over Europe's broader security architecture.
Now, it's true that Russia has made a huge strategic blunder in Ukraine, and that Russian casualties number well over 1 million. But even as the war goes on, Russia is rearming, reconstituting their armed forces, an industrial base. NATO has warned that Russia could be ready to use military force against the alliance by the end of this decade. In the event of a peace deal in Ukraine, which we're all working hard to achieve, Russia's rearmament would only accelerate. The wider danger for Europe would not end there. It would increase. So we must answer this threat in full. We must build our hard power, because that is the currency of the age. We must be able to deter aggression. And yes, if necessary, we must be ready to fight, to do whatever it takes to protect our people, our values, and our way of life. And as Europe, we must stand on our own 2 feet. Now, that means being bolder. It means putting away petty politics and short-term concerns. It means acting together to build a stronger Europe and a more European NATO, underpinned by deeper links between the UK and the EU, across defence, industry, tech, politics, and the wider economy. Now, we are not the Britain of the Brexit years anymore, because we know and that is because we know that in a dangerous world, we would not take control by turning inward. We would surrender it. And I won't let that happen. The US remains an indispensable ally. Its contribution to European security over 80 years is unparalleled, and so is our gratitude. At the same time, we recognise that things are changing. The US national security strategy spells out that Europe must take primary responsibility for its own defence. That is the new normal.